and treasure hunting and stuff like that. And I've just kind of always been obsessed with pirates.
Yeah.
And my brother-in-law used to work in catering and found this like in an old catering site. So now it's just become my background, which I approach life and business and everything very casually, even in real estate and everything. Like I feel like you can take things serious when necessary, but you don't need to be stuffy, and finding that people are much more comfortable with me that way. I mean, I've got purple hair and rainbow glasses and pirate themed programs and all the stuff.
Yeah. And like everybody needs a certain, I don't know, support or I don't know,
Yeah,
avenue to go into. Some people like the suit and tie, super formal. Some people
yeah,
like it to be casual. So you fit your niche and you take off
yeah,
from there.
exactly.
But
Exactly.
no, that's super cool. We actually had a running joke that we were going to put a pirate flag in front of our office building. This was like when I first started, I was working with another broker, and they're like, it's so hard to like try and tell people how to get to our building. Let's just put a pirate flag out in front, and then we'll just say like, go to the building with the pirate flag. But
There you go.
so that stuck out to me, and I love the analogy like treasure hunting as a financial advisor. That's
Yeah.
super cool. If that's not your tagline, we might have to add that in there.
Yeah. So I actually have two books out, and one of them, and they're both pirate themed as well. So, like the first one is the Pirate Journal,
Nice.
a modern treasure hunter's guide to wealth building, and then I have the actual treasure hunt, a guide to
Nice.
maximize wealth. So yeah, I'm actually about to put out a real estate journal as well, all about finding the right house and how you can maximize like what you really want in a house, and find a house that you love and that you perceive as your dream home, but also hits all the marks for a really solid resale value. So
That's awesome. I mean, just
yeah.
from talking to you the first like 3, 4 minutes, I think we're gonna make this an hour because you are into a lot of things. So we'll try to jump right into it. All right, welcome back to this episode of MVP Real Estate Podcast, Season 3, Episode 15. We've got Charissa here. Where are you from? I didn't get that. I apologize.
I'm in Colorado.
Colorado. Awesome. Um,
And
we
if
have
he's
found
pronouncing
out.
your name wrong, correct him.
Yeah, you
Yes,
can
it's
correct me.
Charissa. It's
Charissa.
Charissa.
Carissa.
Charissa.
Carissa.
Charissa.
Yeah,
Okay.
you got to jump in and just correct me.
Okay.
I misspeak on a lot of things. All right, you are an author, a financial advisor, real estate investor, and probably more. But
Yes.
thank you for giving us the time, and I'm going to let you explain everything you're in because it seems like it's a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I am a real estate agent and property manager here in Colorado. And I've been so for since 2012. And then in 2017, my mom and business partner, her and I opened up our own brokerage called Ankeny Real Estate. And the reason that we both started our careers in Remax, and we just decided that we wanted a little bit more freedom to honestly just be ourselves more and approach our clients our way. And then in 2019, I I've always helped my real estate clients sort out their money stuff to be able to buy. It's not uncommon for me to work with a client for 3 or 4 years before they buy a house. And I kept getting frustrated because so many people would come to me in this like desperate situation, and I couldn't help them. Like I needed to meet them 6 months ago or a year ago.
Yeah.
So I decided to become a financial coach. And so I launched that business in late 2019. And then, yeah, since then, I've published 2 books, and both of my businesses have like taken all kinds of different shapes, but I'm also an active real estate investor. I've done flips and I've done rentals myself. I work with a lot of investors as well, especially along the Front Range. So my brokerage is actually, the address is in Palmer Lake, but we primarily work out of Colorado Springs and Denver and Woodland Park, the Western like mountains kind of area. So
Awesome. Awesome. So we started as an agent. That was like your intro into real estate, if I got the
yep.
timeline correct.
Yeah, and I left, the corporate America life. I was an operations manager at a call center. And just I always knew to some degree that I was going to be self-employed, if I'm being completely honest. Like I was in my mid-20s when I got into real estate, and I probably would have done it earlier if I wasn't so afraid of like the money stuff. And it's scary to be responsible for
It's
every
funny
part of
that
your.
what kept you out of it is now what you are like,
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
facing head on. You're the
Yeah,
financial advisor for these clients
yeah,
when
exactly.
it was what you didn't want before. So that's
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I mean, I got frustrated with this idea that I was held accountable for things that I had no control over. And I wanted to do things my way. And I knew that I would be successful if I had to rely on myself. I'm a very solution oriented person, and I didn't worry about it. And so I took the leap and never looked back. And like I said, I've since opened up a property management division and became a financial coach. I also do credit repair. So
Yeah. And you started with Remax, was that correct? Did I
yep,
catch that? And the really tough thing that I found, because I got into real estate as an agent first, and the first thing that hit me was that people would come in, leads would come in. You'd call them, you'd ask them questions. Do you have a pre-approval? What's your credit score? And some of them are, I don't have a pre-approval. Where should I go? Or my credit score is at like 550 or 6. And you're like, well, you think in the back of your head, I can't help you. Like you said before, I need to meet you 6 months ago so that now you're ready. In those bigger box brokers, and not all of them, I'm not going to make a blanket statement. Most of them will say, all right, that's a cold lead, put that in the back, keep calling. But deep
yeah.
down in my head, I'm like, but you can help them. They can get to where they want to go. You don't have to like dismiss them, but they're all about numbers and they want to get things going, at least from my perspective that I found, which is why I've always worked with the boutique, because you can kind of run your clients how you want to. And some that are behind, you can actually like help push through to get to where they can actually buy a home. I don't know if that's what you were seeing out there as well, but
Yeah. So so yes, absolutely. But I feel like it was so much deeper than that. So I was never on a team where I had like a team leader that like necessarily gave me leads and I had requirements to call and things like that. I had came in and like my mom and I were technically on a team, but we just treated it as independent, like we did our own thing. But it was really hard. When you get out of real estate school, they don't teach you how to be a real estate agent. They just teach you how to not get sued. And
yeah,
even that was a
that's a
little
good way to
hard.
put it. That's a very good way to put it.
And so, I was searching for like, how am I going to grow my business? Because I'm not going to door knock and I'm not going to cold call. And I refused to do it that way. And absolutely, like there was a lot of pressure to just call and call and call. And I was just not going to do that. And I met this amazing lender actually super early in my career. And one of his primary marketing efforts was getting leads from HUD Home Store. And it was most of them were garbage. I'm not going to pretend like they weren't. But I can tell you, like the people and the clients that I did meet were those people that we were just talking about who landed on HUD Home Store because they were looking for something really cheap. And most
Yep.
people who are looking for something really cheap, it's because they have some sort of roadblock that's preventing them from participating actively in the real market, for lack of a better word. And so it allowed me to really meet these buyers that were hungry. Like they wanted it, like they wanted to buy, like they, they were in, these were a lot of low income people, people who needed to change their financial life forever. And I believe wholeheartedly, I'm sorry, like that's my dog. She's insane if you
Oh,
can
it's
hear her.
fine. It's fine. We both have dogs at home. We know the struggles.
But she like I I just so many of these buyers that I met, like it reminded me that the earlier in your life that you buy a home, the more it changes your financial life forever. And if it can be like the momentum shift for generational wealth. And so many of these people that I was meeting from the HUD home store, like kind of fell into that category. And it just kind of coincided with the fact that because I was super young, a lot of my friends were not homeowners yet. And like, we're coming out of the I'm dumb and in my 20s. And like now I have this disaster that I need to fix
Yep.
before I die. And so it allowed me to kind of dive into this educator role and help people because I've always been really good with money. I've always, and I'm not like, I can tell you, like, I'm not a save kind of a person. I don't believe in sacrificing the things that you want in life for the things that you need. I believe that you can build wealth, and I travel all of the time. Like, I don't believe that you have to choose. And so I feel like people really resonated with this idea that you don't have to like give up your entire life, but you can still buy a house, you can still build wealth, and you can still do all of these things. And it really started with this lender who was feeding me these leads that a lot of agents would have
Yeah.
blown off.
Discarded. Yeah. And that was the big struggle when I started, was that all those people were getting kind of passed off. And I was lucky when the first thing I looked into for real estate technically was for myself to buy a home. Finances weren't there, credit score wasn't there. And we got led into NACA, the program that was set up for low income, low credit score, but they're able to get you financing. And the one thing I found is they were able to get you more financing for like a duplex or a triplex because they know that some of their lending is going to be secured by the rent roll of your tenants.
Right.
And it lessens the financial burden on you. And that was like the eye-opening moment to me where I'm like, hey, if I had those people that came in and wanted to buy a house but couldn't afford it right away, could I get them to see the benefit of multifamily? They don't have to manage the property. You can build in a property management cost on top of it, but just live in a duplex for 3 years while you save up money for that single family home you want. And I know it's a 3 year like delayed gratification, but after that 3 years, you will be amazed at how different your financial situation is.
Yeah.
And the tough part is with me, I don't have that, like you, the pirate financial advisor. I don't have the wherewithal or the follow through to keep with them. Like I give them the programs and I just cross my fingers and I hope they call and I hope they do it. But it sounds like you've kind of alleviated that and like helped them bridge that gap so that
Oh
they can
yeah.
get to the finish line.
Yeah. The longest I ever worked with a client before they bought is 7 years.
7 years. Then it like how happy were they after 7 years of doing that?
Excited.
That is cool. Do you still talk to them today? Like, is it a friendship
We still
made?
talk to him today. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna say
Yeah.
after 7 years, you have to be quite friendly.
Yeah, and it was one of those things like I mean, and it's not like I talk to them every day, every week, or even every month. But, when I establish these relationships, my clients just know. I don't care if you're buying today. I just want to help you. And if you just have a question, that's cool. You can call, you
Yeah.
know. I mean, I don't believe that. I think that real estate is such an important part of our wealth building ability. Like that's really what it comes down to for me. And so many people just it's scary. It's just scary. It's overwhelming. The idea of being on the hook for hundreds of thousands of dollars. They think that it's just not possible. And so a lot of times, like in the beginning, it's just questions, I see all of these other people doing this thing, and like, maybe I can do the thing too,
Yeah.
and it does usually start with credit. And, I technically for a long time had a credit repair piece of my business. I still do, if I'm being honest, but recently I started white labeling, like I started partnering with another credit repair person in Colorado Springs, although she does do credit repair everywhere, and she's amazing. And I'm the first to admit that I am not I'm not a paperwork person. Like, I really don't like it. I have an assistant who does like everything except for like my contracts and stuff. And so credit repair just felt daunting. But it's so important. And so I love to teach the strategy behind it. But I don't want to manage the process. So I started partnering with somebody very recently to help me, like, to manage the process for my clients. And she's phenomenal. I mean, she gets stuff deleted and scores increase very, very fast. I actually have an interesting deal right now that you guys may be interested in. So I have a first time buyer, and that's got a pretty low qualification price. And Colorado's expensive. Like, I'm not gonna pretend like it's not. And I live in the mountains. They grew up here. They want to stay in the mountains, et cetera, et cetera. Well, they can only qualify for FHA. They have, some credit score stuff, like some other stuff. They just don't have any depth. They're young, and I just could not get anybody to take their FHA offer, because all of these houses, I mean, would require some stuff to go FHA. And I'm like, okay, there has got to be another way. So,
and for the listeners, sorry, I want to plug this. For the listeners, FHA is very finicky. Like paint chipping off of windows, you're not getting financing. So I'm guessing the homes they're looking for, lower price point, more deferred maintenance.
Exactly.
Stressed. All right.
So they have found this perfect house, and they were not going to budge on this requiring conventional thing. And so I was like, okay, I told my clients, I'm like, you guys just need to like leave this with me for a day. I'm going to figure this out. I just need you to leave this with me for a day. So I called every like credit guru besides myself that I know. And I'm like, this is how many points I need. This is how far away I am. These are the trade lines I need. Like, this is what I think is going to work. And before I like jump in head first and like tell these clients this is going to work, I want somebody else to like agree with me and give me some other ideas. And so we did it in 3 days after their lender originally just did not think it was possible. I did a bunch of stuff, moved a bunch of stuff, called some people, had one of their moms put them on a credit card, paid this off, and we got a conventional lender letter in 3 days, and we're under contract, and we close in a few weeks.
Nice. That's awesome.
Nice.
And they are probably so happy that they called you, because there's not many agents that would go through the lengths to get that buyer ready to actually purchase. So kudos to you on that one.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And that kind of stuff is fun for me, to be honest. Like, I love to help people buy, like their dream home. I really love helping sellers and watch them, I mean, I had one client years ago. I worked with him for years, and he, was renting all of his furniture from Rent-A-Center when I met him, and had like no anything. Like, he had no wealth, he had no savings, he had no nothing. And, we did some work. He bought a house, and he walked away with $150,000 cash a few years later, and went and started his new dream life of living in a camper, like on some land that he bought in the middle of nowhere. I mean,
that's awesome.
So that's the kind of stuff that I really love. It's that people who their lives are never going to be the same after this. These people didn't come from families that, everybody's owned a home since their great grandparents, like that real estate investing is part of their blood, that, talking about money and just understanding that, what's possible. Like these people that I help, they don't have that.
Yeah. No, and it's super important that they were able to find that, because that is monumental for people. And I don't know their exact situations, but I mean, if you're parents with kids and you're able to offer like the house that they're going to grow up in, like that's something that you can't put a price tag on. But it's very, very few that you're going to find an agent that would carry you all the way through to the finish line. So that's super cool. It sounds like you love the challenge. Whatever the challenge is, bring it on. So
Absolutely.
it makes it begs the question of, all right, you're the agent, you're going through all these buyers and sellers, you got the credit repair, the finance, and then you're like, hey, let's renovate a house.
Yes.
So how did you go from the agent side, and then did this house pop up, or were you doing research knowing you were going to invest?
Okay, so
Or are you a glutton for punishment and just took it on and said, let's see
both.
where it goes?
Yes, all of it. Okay. So my parents, we they basically gutted and renovated every house that I ever lived in my entire life. They definitely, were self-made by every description of the word. And so, and they were really where I learned this idea that the earlier that you buy a house, in your life, the more it changes your finances forever. And yeah, I mean, they just like they didn't have a lot of money, and so they would, buy these houses and we would live in them and they would renovate them. And so I grew up, like re-roofing houses and doing drywall and like just all of the stuff. And so I was never afraid of it. And that's the biggest thing, is I was never afraid of it.
Yeah.
Things don't scare me away. And so the very first house that we ever renovated was our first house that my husband and I bought. And we didn't do a ton. It was cosmetic. But I mean, we replaced all of the flooring and we repainted and we did windows and we did the exterior, and like so we did a lot of stuff. We redid the kitchen and the bathrooms, and so I think that was the biggest thing, is I was never afraid of it. And I knew that was also the house. I bought that house knowing that I had every intention of renting it out.
Okay.
Because of the position, like the house was a great house on a big lot, but it sat kind of strangely on the lot. And so I felt like I would make a lot more money with it as a rental. And so I did. And then a few years later, after I lived in it for a few years, and then I rented it for a few years, I sold it to my tenant. And
Okay.
completely, changed their lives as well. They fit into the category I was just talking about for sure. And I worked with them for about a year to help them sort their things out so they could buy it. And it was the perfect scenario for us. Like they walked in with equity. My husband and I didn't have to go through all of the craziness of putting it on the market. Like we got a great deal, and then we took that money and we rolled it into the house that I live in now. This is the biggest project I've ever taken on. And to do it all over again, I would not live here. Do it. Because my husband and I also both work from home. Like we've been in this house for several years. And we did all of like the things we had to do to live here in the first 6 months. But the house, like, this is going to make us a lot of money, but we have to change the structure of the house. Like there's a whole lot of stuff. And so I tend to see a house and see what it could be. I've also done, so then one of the really, like probably the funnest project I ever did was one of my mom's friends does investing in tax liens
Yeah.
and ended up
That's an
like,
interesting subsector real estate.
yeah. So, but normally, they don't end up with the actual property. It's super rare to like acquire properties through that way. But he ended up with all of these properties in 2018 and he didn't know how to clear the deed so he could sell it. And so he had called my mom for some help and we helped him through it. And we're like, hey, like instead of selling that to this cash investor that sent you a letter, like we'll buy it. And so we bought this condo that was full of stuff. Like, I mean, full ceiling to floor,
Hoarding house kind of thing.
but it was all good stuff. Yes, but it
Oh,
wasn't. So we sold the stuff that was inside for a lot of money. Then we're able to turn around and renovate the condo and sell it for like triple what we paid for it. And yeah, and it was a really, really, really fun project. And
was
yeah,
that
and
your
we,
second property then? After the
yeah,
house you lived in and flipped?
well, that was my first property that I did not live in myself.
Okay,
Yeah. So,
gotcha.
and then I've done a few other projects. And most of the investing projects that I do with my mom. She's my business partner as well. So, yeah.
It's cool to
So
have a partner to help either bounce ideas off of or support. Even like there are some days where you're just not, you can't give 100 every day. So if you got 50, your mom can come in with 50 or whoever your business partner is. It's super nice. Um,
yeah, we say all the time that like we're both not allowed to like freak out at the same time, like and want to quit. Like it's pretty rare for us both want to quit real estate at the same time. And entrepreneurship can be hard.
yeah,
And so yeah, having somebody who like can talk you off the ledge, that's important.
they're very,
So
very important. Yeah.
to do projects with my brother and sister-in-law. So my sister-in-law is the assistant I was telling you guys about that like does all of my
Nice.
stuff contracts. And we've done a few projects with them as well. And so yeah, like we're just one big real estate family.
That's cool. I mean, one, you get to see your family every day. And two, we can mention like the tax benefits of hiring your family. So
Yeah,
that's a double dip. That's a win. Win-win right
yeah.
there. All right. I was gonna ask you because I'm big on mindset. I think it's super important for people to be in the right mindset to go into it and kind of I've always said like don't run away from something, run to something because it's a different perspective. So like as you are, I know you have the background of your family in real estate and they've done it for decades before.
My mom got in it only a few years before me.
Oh, really? Okay. So, all right, you don't have the long history. So, as you go in and you're like, all right, I'm going to buy this house and we're going to flip it. I've never been a contractor. I haven't touched this stuff. How do you get over the fear of like the unknown or what could possibly happen here? And I'm speaking in reference of the people that, all right, I want to get into real estate. I want to own a house. I want to own a rental, but like that scares the crud out of me. Like, how did you get through that one?
To be honest, like I don't really have that kind of fear, but I can tell you my husband does. So the biggest thing is like understanding what could go wrong and understanding due diligence. And I think it's different, like if you're going to, so basically, this is how I explain it to people. When you think of, so the biggest thing is like home warranties, but I explain it to them in a little bit different of a way. So if you think about the system that could go wrong in a home that's going to cost you the most money, like, pick one that's the scariest that wouldn't be covered by your homeowner's insurance that you couldn't wait to fix. Like if you didn't have the money, like it doesn't matter. And what typically comes up for people is heat, the furnace.
Yeah.
And so I help them determine the cost essentially to fully replace a furnace. And then tell them until you have that amount of money in the bank, you keep a home warranty on your house. End of story.
Yeah. That's pretty safe. I mean, that's the reason for insurance, is to cover those what ifs. And there's a
Yep.
lot of what ifs when you own a home. Water
Yep.
heaters, there's a lot of mechanical things that can go wrong.
Exactly. And then I have my uncle was a contractor for years here. And so he's not anymore, but always like knew that if I couldn't find like a plumber or a this or that, I could call and be like, Galen, like, give me a guy. Like, I need a guy. Point me in the direction of a guy that's going to show up, is licensed and insured, is going to do a good job, and is not going to charge me a gazillion dollars, you know?
Yeah.
And now like I have a really, really solid like contractor base. But I don't use a lot of like plumbers and electricians and things like that. I do a little bit, but I like, GCs and people so my favorite contractor that I use right now, like he's a GC, but he's, the name of his business is the Solution Service. And he has a guy for everything. So he has subs for everything. I don't have to worry about finding them. I just call him and be like, this is what I need. This is my timeline. When are you going out?
Yeah.
And I know that he has the insurance in place. Like I know that, and so I refer him to my clients, and I make sure all of the people that I work with understand that if you have a real estate question, for sure I can help you. But also like that includes renovating your house. Like that includes all of the things. And like, I'm happy to help. The inspector that I use I have a couple of them, and they're all very, very, very thorough. I do not believe that this is a little bit, not every real estate agent agrees with me on this. So I'm just going to put that out there. A lot of real estate inspectors that I use, some of their local agents don't like them because they feel like they over sensationalize things. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that it is an inspector's job to point out every little thing.
Yep.
And it is my job to manage my client's emotions. And it is the other agent's job to manage their client's emotions.
Yep.
Not the inspector's job to tell somebody whether something is or is not a big deal. It is not their job to downplay anything, because they don't actually know. Like we're only there for a handful of hours, right? Like they can't know if that, thing that foundation thing could be a big deal or it could not be a big deal. Like they're not responsible for determining that.
Yep.
They're responsible for saying, this is something that you should probably pay attention to. And all of my inspectors give like a home maintenance manual as well as part of it. And so we go over that. And yeah, so I'm very education focused. I'm sure you guys can tell, like clients have all of the information every step of the way. And that's usually how we get past that fear.
Yeah. And I think you hit it right on the head with the inspection. I know that all the properties that I buy, I've had an inspection done on them, even if they are like going to get remodeled, because I just want to know what the status is. And I've told a lot of sellers, I'm going to get an inspection. It's not contingent on my offer. So if this comes back and we've got problems, that doesn't matter. The offer is still the offer. I just need to know, so I know what I need to look at. Like how many electrical issues do we have? Do we have any plumbing issues? That's all I need to know. I need the info. I'll take the info and do what I need to do with it. And sometimes they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Sometimes they get like a little skittish, like, oh, you're bringing an inspector in? And it's like,
well, those are the people that are probably trying to hide something then. Like,
I know.
That's funny you mentioned that, because I think in October, it'll be 3 years that we've been in this house, and I still have my home inspection for this house bookmarked.
Yeah.
And like, I'll pull it up every once in a while, look at it. Okay. And have I addressed this, or have I checked on this in a while? And like, there is stuff when it first came back, my wife and I ran down a list and we're like, okay, there's 10 or 12 things that we need addressed here. What are 2 or 3 big ones that we want to possibly throw in and say, hey, address this, or, we're going to have to adjust our original offer. And one of them was a bad window, the old crank casement windows. One of those was bad. the seller agreed to give us a credit for the cost of a window, and they actually over padded their original quote to cover the cost of that window. And then the other one was there's 2 furnaces and 2 central airs, and they agreed because of that and a little bit of the age on them that they agreed to cover like the very best home warranty that was available for the
Nice.
property. So there's still stuff that I have to look at, and I'm like, what is
But yeah.
this? And like they said that there was 2 or 3 of the bathroom sinks had leaks from his inspection, and then I knocked those out within the first couple of weeks of moving in. But I still reference ours, and the only reason I think I'm so paranoid is because when I first bought my first house back in 2010, we didn't have a good inspection because it was a friend of the agent. So that is another thing that maybe isn't talked about a lot, and we've been told after the fact, like, hey, don't ever take the agent's recommendation because sometimes they could be in cahoots, but hey, don't share this with them or don't reveal this to them because it could kill my deal. And at that time, I think it was way more of a buyer's market in 2010 than it is now a seller's.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and those buyer seller markets really depend on a lot on inspection and how much weight you put on them in terms of the offer or not.
yep.
And that's the one thing that I always try to educate, like you were saying, you can still get those done. You can get a radon test done just for your peace of mind. It doesn't mean it's going to kill the deal.
Yeah.
You just want to know the info.
And radon is huge here in Colorado. I mean, radon is caused by decomposing granite, and I literally live on a granite mountain. So 90% of houses in this area, like so many things come back high. Some of them, like it's only a little high, but I mean, we've had hundreds. Like we've had radon in the hundreds.
Whoa.
In the more than 100s. And so
you're still 4 parts per million, right? That's like a standard across. Yeah, that's crazy. That's not. I think the highest I've seen here, and that was we've got some foundries around here, so like the Waukesha area, Pewaukee, which means nothing to you, but that area has a lot of foundries. In those radons, I've seen 45. I think is the highest I've seen. So that number that you have is insane.
Yeah. So a lot of them come back. I would say like the most common is probably 20s, if they're, super high, but yeah, no, we've had in the hundreds. Like, I think, I know my mom has had one that was over 200, but I don't know what that number was, but the highest I've had was like 179 or something like that.
And that's in the Colorado Springs area?
It's actually in Teller County, which is west of there in the mountains,
okay.
But yes.
What do you do to mitigate that? How do you, so you get the test done and then what do you?
So it's the same as any other radon system. So it doesn't matter what it is. Like, so I'm not a radon expert. Like,
it looks like a big, like 3-inch PVC pipe that goes into your basement, and it's got a fan that pumps the gas up out of your house. That's pretty much what it looks like.
So that's what I see on houses that almost looks like a downspout, but reversed on the side of the corner of the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Like if you do like most of our stuff here, like we have a lot of basements, but like we also have a lot of like partial basement crawl spaces. And so if it's a crawl space, they basically encase everything with plastic and then seal it that way. But yeah, it's it just pumps it out. But the crazy thing is it doesn't matter like how high it is. That's actually not true. We have had one where we had to do two.
I was going to ask you, did that one require 2 radon pumps?
Usually no. Usually it's about like the structure of like if it's just like flat, like one level or whatever, and then usually no. But yeah, I forgot we have had one that we had to do 2 systems, but it's not common even when they're really, really high.
Yeah, I've always seen one, but I've never seen numbers that high. So I was just out of my curiosity if you needed 2 or a bigger fan, because like obviously the fans are rated to pump X amount of
CFMs.
Yeah.
They don't look any different, but I know they're more expensive. So I imagine it's, more powerful in some capacity.
Yeah.
Just throw like 6 box fans under the crawl space and call it a day.
Yeah.
That'll be the fix. The inspector will pass that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, the last thing I wanted to touch on was your books. So when did you start writing, like, because they're titled the journals, are they actually your journal, like your process through real estate, or how do you?
They're workbooks. So, these ones are both based on my financial coaching. Neither of these are real estate based. My real estate book should be coming out. Hopefully, I actually just started it. It'll probably be a few months. It usually takes me, like, this book took me, this is my first one, and it took me about 7 months to write. This one I did in 4 weeks. But
Wow.
you'll see this one is okay. So there's a lot of like workbook pages. So I should back up too.
And are these available online? Because we can put
Yep,
these
they're
on
on
the
Amazon.
notes if
Like
people are
it's through.
interested.
Yep, so it's through a publisher. So you can get it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the things. But yeah, this one is really about my financial philosophy. On how to build a wealth building strategy that honors the lifestyle that you want to live. That's what this one is. And this one is all about money mindset. Mindset is a huge piece to me. I believe that every decision that we make and every fear and all of those, fight or flight type of feelings stem from our money story, because money is the physical representation of safety in our world. So it's tied back to money somehow. Like, even if you don't realize that it is somehow. And so like truly understanding where those things come from is what the treasure hunt is about. And so this one is 100% a journal. So this one is purely journal prompts and pages to write. And then at the very last, I teach this thing called, I call it danger zones and lighthouses, but it's essentially understanding spending and saving triggers, and how to stay mindful in your money all the time. And if that makes sense. So essentially, like, recognizing what you really want in your life and just not spending money on anything else. And so I call it danger zones and lighthouses, and that's in both of them. But that's the only like lesson in this book. Everything else in this one is a journal prompt around money story. And I talk a little bit about your personal relationship with money and kind of explain what I was just saying. So yeah.
So danger zones meaning stuff to stay away from and avoid, and lighthouses what you can work towards or go to for the safety security.
So your danger zones are essentially your spending triggers. So for me, for example, I am an impulse buyer. Like, that's my spending trigger. I get bored and I will literally scroll Amazon like I'm doom scrolling Facebook.
It's almost Prime Day, so this is your dojo right here.
I have lighthouses to keep me from doing that. So then your lighthouses are essentially the things that bring you back into awareness. So it's a lot of like questions and guidelines for yourself. And none of my stuff is hard and fast rules, because like I said, I don't believe in living in restriction. I don't believe in, that you have to have no debt before you can do anything else. Like, I believe in leveraging other people's money. Like I have a lot of money philosophies that are a lot different than, kind of what's out there in the mainstream world. And so my lighthouses, so for example, like, I don't shop on Prime Day. I have to leave things in my cart for a certain amount of time. Like, I don't have like the one swipe buy, and stuff like that, because
I'm glad I'm not alone.
I know, those are the things I know that if I don't have those things, I'm not just going to doom scroll Amazon and randomly buy crap that I don't even want. I mean, it's one thing to buy something that you really want. Like, I'm never going to tell you, don't go to Starbucks, don't buy the things that you want or whatever. But we buy a lot of shit. Sorry, we buy a lot of stuff that we don't actually want.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I agree.
It is.
I do the same thing. My wife makes fun of me for it all the time. When we go grocery, or not grocery shopping, we'll go to like Target or whatever store we're at, and I'll have a cart and I'll walk through and I'll think about something for a while, put it in the cart, and we're walking around the store. And then as we're getting closer to checkout, I was like, I don't really need this. I don't really need this. And she's like, you do this every time. She's like, how much time did we just spend in here? And I was like, well, I'm not buying it, so I'm saving some money now. I'm basically justifying why I'm not gonna buy it after the fact. So it's like,
Yeah.
otherwise you have the buyer's remorse. You buy it, and then you have to go return it 2 days later. And you're like, I didn't really want this. So,
Or
Yeah,
you
exactly.
don't get up and return it, so you just sit and it's sitting there at your house.
oh no, it gets returned. It gets returned.
Terrible at returning. Like, it is a huge joke in my family. If I buy something and it's gonna end up in Goodwill if I don't want it, because I am terrible at returning. And so I'm super conscious of not buying stuff that I don't want. Like,
Yep.
I'm so glad you brought up the, like, you limit things that you buy on Amazon. You let them sit in your cart for a little bit, because I have added things to my cart. I put save for later, and then I'm like, I'm going to check back next week. And if I really want that still, I'll get it. If I don't, I have like 40 things in my shopping cart that I put in years ago that I still haven't bought. And how much money, if I totaled those up, would it have been of useless stuff
Yep.
if I would have just impulse buy?
yeah.
So I
But
like that
Yeah.
strategy.
There's something that I don't know if it's when you're scrolling Facebook or inadvertently you see one ad that triggers you to be like, oh, well, I wanted to look at this. And I'll, same thing, put it in my cart, or I'll do a save for later. And then I'll go back and look. And I'm like, how did I get here? Why am I looking at this product? And I do the same thing with Audible.
Yes.
Like, books will come up, and then I'll be watching a TikTok or an Instagram reel, whatever it is. And I'll be watching it. And I'm like, okay, then I'll go over to Audible, put it on my wish list for my library. And then a couple weeks later, I'm going back. I'm like, how did I get here? Why do I have this book in here? Because it's not in any type of alignment with,
Yeah.
other books that I have read. So it's the same thing. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Got to have patience with that.
They spend a lot of money. When I say they, I mean companies like Facebook and Audible and Amazon and all the things to, use everything that we put out on the internet to make you become an impulse buyer.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 7 primary spending triggers, but I can tell you, like, the most common ones are emotional and impulse, and the third one is status. So, like, keeping up with the Joneses style stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one in the world that knows that. And I imagine, there is not a marketer out there that doesn't know 1,000 times more about spending triggers than I do.
The psychology behind what they're trying to, affect within the person.
And so they do it on purpose, and, good on them. Like, for, it cracks me up when I'm like thinking about something and I know I haven't said it out loud. And the next thing, I'm getting an ad, because obviously, like, my, the mind map that I took to think about, per item it was, I somehow, put that out into the universe on the computer somewhere. Plus on that, in the actual, universe energy. And so, it's important for us to stay mindful in our money, because it's, everything that's out there these days is out there to try to pull you out of mindfulness.
Yeah. And I like that yours is, you were talking about getting a relationship with your finances, whatever situation you're in. Because when you see these ads on Instagram where the guy's like leaned up on his nice car and he's like, I'll tell you how to make $7,000 in a week. Or like the Dave Ramsey's, I appreciate Dave Ramsey for what he is. And some people it works super well for. But like, I couldn't adopt his philosophy because I can't live debt free. I'm constantly in debt with real estate. So I think everybody has a different state of
around. I have a lot of feelings around the idea of debt free, to be honest. I also don't believe in zero-based budgeting. Like, I have a lot of philosophies that a lot of the gurus out there tell you. And I believe that those philosophies are built for wealthy people. They are not built in a way to allow anyone who does not already have money to truly thrive and grow wealth. And unfortunately, it's not really presented that way. And so it creates a lot of the people that I meet are in a really bad situation because of those philosophies that they tried to adopt with no support and no real guidance. And it's not realistic.
Yeah.
It's just not realistic. And also, like, my biggest problem with a lot of it, even if you take all of that away, is I believe it pulls you into scarcity. And I just don't believe in living life in scarcity. I don't.
Yeah. I think you just have to fully understand your lifestyle. A family of 5 or 6 with kids running around is going to have a different, yeah, I know that's why I pulled you in. Or that's going to be different than like the dinks who live next door with 2 dinks are dual income, no kids. So your finances are going to be completely different. So like there can't be one roadmap for both of you. You need to understand your positions. These people are going to buy more kid toys. They're going to buy kid toys. These people are going to buy adult like cars and boats because they can. But you just need to understand where you're at. And overall, like the main thing that I always stress is like get your needs done. Your needs have to be there. Don't even dabble in the boats and the planes if it's not even a thing. You need to get your bills paid and get your stuff done and then go into your wants. And I want you to spend on your wants because you need to enjoy what you're doing. But if you're setting yourself back and you're going into debt to do that, to keep up with the Joneses, like where is that wealth building going to start? Where are you going to start planning to buy a house? That's the part where I'm like, just understand your situation and then attack it from there.
Sure, but I also think, one of the reasons that I teach it the way I do is because I believe that if you're truly honest about what you want, you don't actually want all that crap.
Yeah.
And there are people who would choose to be homeless and live a nomad life. And like, that's cool.
Yeah.
When I talk to, because I actually know a lot of people in the nomad lifestyle. I travel a lot. I could never do that. I have to be able to, I travel a lot, but I still have to have like a home base to come in and decompress. I have dogs. Obviously you hear Penny being insane. But I ask people sometimes like I tell people that you don't have to sacrifice the things that you want for the things that you need. And they're like, well, like I want to quit my job and like I want to do this and go on a like world motorcycle trip. And I'm like, do you really want to do that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what about your kids? What about this? I was like, no, that's maybe a dream. Like maybe that is something that you have, over, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, you've, glorified.
Like overextend?
Yeah. Well, no, you've glorified this idea in
your
head.
I got you.
This thing, but when you actually look at what you really want, you don't. You're just trying to make yourself feel like you don't have the life that you want because you hate your job or you do this. But if you just made it a few shifts, you could have everything that you wanted because you don't actually want this thing that you're trying to glorify,
Yeah, they just keep telling that same story, so they feel like they have to. It's self-perpetuating. Like they keep telling everybody, "I'm gonna do this" or "I need to do this," and then you never get back to the root cause. It's like when you're talking to a kid that's crying. After a few minutes, you're like, "Do you even remember why you started crying? What caused you start?" So it's very similar to that type of situation. You keep telling everybody, "I'm gonna go do this. I'm gonna go do this," and then you're holding yourself to that standard, and then you're thinking that people are doing the same thing, and you're like, just step back, and it's like you don't. That's not that it's not true, but like that's not what you really want. Like find something either more realistic or dig down to the core of what is behind that or what is at the base of.
And I think the big key to do that is like the journal that you have. So if the listeners here don't have anything, I would take a look at your journal, because when you self-reflect on what you are doing and actually take a look to sit with where your goals are and what you want to do, in a big piece of that, I think every financial advisor out there talks about journaling or writing down kind of what your goals are. So I think that's an important piece. So it's super cool that you got that out for your clients. And I'm sure you have them do that as they come on, as their home buying process starts.
Yeah. So I have, yes, absolutely. So a lot of my real estate clients and my coaching clients, like a lot of them end up kind of intertwined.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, right? Like, I mean, I built my real estate career on helping people with a lot of these financial philosophies. I taught it for a long time. I just now teach it to people that are not just my real estate clients.
Yeah. And then you're going to slowly, as this thing keeps going and going, and you have more clients that last 7 years, you're going to be the miracle worker in the area. Like everybody's going to come to you to get the problem done. So you're setting yourself very, very well.
Yeah. So the market here is interesting right now. So it should be nice and fun for me for a while. Like I said, like you said before, I absolutely like the challenge. So
Yeah. That's cool. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing some more good things from you in your future. So we did come up on an hour, so we have to cut it off. But
yes.
thank you so much for the info. We're gonna put your books in the show notes.
Okay.
If people have questions, I know that you work primarily in the Colorado area, but if people had questions for you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
The best way is probably you can contact me on my website, which is CharissaTurnbull.com. That's probably
Awesome.
And all of my links to buy my books and stuff are there as well. And then of course, like I'm on social media. And then my email is charissa.turnbull@gmail.com as well. So
Okay.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, that's super cool. Congratulations on what you've built. Like that is impressive,
yeah.
one. And two, like I really hope things keep going well for you in this area, because I know that I'm not going to call it a market, but those clients, they get overlooked sometimes. So I appreciate hearing from somebody who's actually taking the time to like get them through the finish line. That's super important. So kudos to you on that one.
I want to ask one
Awesome.
quick thing real quick, if I can, before we
Yeah.
wrap. With regards to how you said you helped a client, they rented out your property and then you turned it into them buying the house from you, right? Is that an avenue that you'd explore further to like do with more clients? Like find something that they want, buy it, hold it, rent it to them.
Like a rent to own?
Kind of, but then you guys either split the equity and be like, hey, you guys have been paying this for X amount of years.
It's funny that you say that. My mom and I have actually been talking about an opportunity to do that with some of the properties here, because we have a lot of the, the FHA conventional stuff getting in the way still, like I was talking about earlier. So yes, absolutely. The only thing is I don't necessarily believe that it's always a good idea for the listing agent and the buyer's agent to be the same person. And so I don't always, even though like I will make more money, I don't always recommend that type of relationship, because and then like when you own the property as well, it can become clouded.
Yeah.
So yes, but with very defined expectations.
Okay.
That is a great way to put it.
Well,
I second that one.
It was just something I was curious about. So
yeah.
We do that with a lot of our sellers. Like, so we will pay for a lot of their renovations and stuff. So we do that kind of on the other side.
nice.
That's cool. We didn't even get into that side.
Yeah.
We left things on the table here. Well, we will have to connect with you again soon. But again, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend. And hopefully you guys don't have bad weather anymore. I heard there was like a hailstorm.
Oh my gosh, it's been crazy here. It seems to be like on the tail end, and it's supposed to be nice this weekend. So
nice. We'll have a good 4th of July with the nice weather out there.
Yeah, you guys too. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.